Hey, hey,
And
hey,
just
we are back yet again. Go ahead.
for another
Please don't look late.
episode, y'all. Listen, a relationship topia. Oh my God, Trail, we are looking like so much alike today. Like, why is that the
It's
case?
crazy.
Oh my
I
God.
don't know. We're
I think
splitting
maybe
images
I think it's
of
I
one
think
another.
it's I think it's the natural hair vibe going, maybe, and I don't know because you got the hat on. I'm like, dang, she look like me from the mouth up, like from your you know what I mean? It is so
I'm
crazy.
Jill today.
My twin, I guess we're fraternal twins, born in different years, same parents. You know how that is.
There you go.
Oh my God. So today, girl, we're going to continue this conversation. Don't get married if, well, not yet, until you
And if you
address some
are,
things that has been, come on, you got to get it all the way together. I
yeah,
think people don't realize how important one, attachment styles, which really is just a direct reflection of your communication styles and ability to connect. And as we're getting to today, we've talked about the various styles of what is referred to as insecure attachment style. And I really don't like that name because it does give a little ring of a negative connotation.
right.
But nevertheless, and maybe that's good because I feel like we always try to run from reality of what something is. An insecure attachment isn't an effective way of engaging, and it's not a way to thrive in a parent-child relationship, and it's definitely not a way to thrive in a romantic relationship. And not saying that you cannot have a thriving relationship if you have those attachment styles, but what we want you to do is reduce, like if you're on a spectrum, 0 to
Yeah.
100, we want you to reduce how much the insecure characteristics show up and increase the way that secure attachment styles and attributions show up. And we're going to be talking about that. And so I was going to give a quick intro of what secure attachment style is. And then my girlfriend here is going to go into the characteristics. And then we're going to just kind of break in and continue to talk about how it impacts romantic relationships. And we're going to see how this is quite different of a way of connecting. And so again, y'all know this is a teaching podcast. So if you haven't figured that out by now, you listen, you should know that by now that this is a teaching podcast. We both are teachers by the Spirit and our spiritual gifting. So you will get a lot of that. We do try to keep it conversational. So make sure you are leaving your comments and wherever platform you are on, type so we can come back and comment. And also make sure you're making recommendations about topics in the future so we can make sure we are coming straight down your lane and addressing the questions, concerns, and topics that you want us to talk about. So for today, without further ado, talking about secure attachment styles. So a secure attachment style, really, again, we're talking about the parent and child relationship, and particularly the mother relationship with the mother and the child. And when you see a secure attachment style, you're going to see a warmness, you're going to see a bond, a loving bond between the mother and the child. This happens in infancy. So the study, as it's been told, when a child has a secure attachment style, when that mother leaves, whether leaves to go to the store, leaves for a day for work or whatever, when that mother comes back, that child has confidence, one, that the mother will return. And when she does return, he or she, that child, is willing to embrace the mother, love the mother, to say, oh, just welcome her. And so the child is willing and ready to connect. And this is the same thing. The child feels loved and cared for and has some type of security. So I don't know if the mother is telling the child. I would imagine this would be a positive thing to do, to constantly reinforce to that child, I'll be back. I'm always going to be with you. I'll never leave you. Like these positive affirmations, even before your child can speak. And even the gesture when the child is making I'll even say kids make bids for connection, right? When that child is crying or feeling a level of disconnection, and that mother shows up for that child and builds this level of a secure base for that child. I believe, and this is, I'll just say, I believe sometimes the security is missing when that mother is unavailable due to fatigue, a lack of capacity, or other reasons, work, and not to be able to respond to that child. And or the child just have a perception that the mother is not being responsive, even though the mother may not be as responsive as this child needs. So getting to the secure attachment, they will feel the love, they will feel the connection, they will feel the security. It will be a healthy bond. And the great thing about this is this bond it's established between the age of 0 and 2, maybe 3, like 2.5. The great thing is the bond, it don't stop. This bond carries out throughout their life. And this is why, I have so many sisters and I have a lot of friends with kids. And every mom I hear, when they're like, oh my God, my child just called me, I got to call them back. Right. And so these kids continue to keep that connection and keep reaching out to their mom over time and wanting to connect, and the mother likewise. And so this is when you see that emotional healthy bond has been established, and that connection is there. And this is really important. This is why we also say, when you are out in these dating streets, people always talking about daddy issues and all of this, and this is a real thing. It's 70% in the African American community. I mean, I'm not gonna say we need to stop talking about it, because it's still a real issue and it's really tearing at the fabric of the Black community. However, we need to also focus on what is that child's relationship with their mother. And so if you're watching this under the sound of my voice and your relationship with your mother is fragmented, if you're not talking to your mother at least every other day or so, then we need to visit what is there and how. Well, you need to visit, not us particularly, but you need to take some time to kind of look into that, because if you cannot establish a healthy relationship with that first person, your mom, then it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to go and establish relationship with someone else. I'm gonna leave it there because I can keep going on and on, but Trill, I know you want to get into the characteristics, so let's get into it.
Yeah, that's facts. And the fact, Jill, that the fact, no pun intended, that this is formed between the ages of like 6 months to 2, maybe a little bit beyond that, is very interesting, because you would think a child that young really don't notice, right, if a parent is there or not there, if a parent is coming back. And one thing about that secure attachment style, like even when the parent leaves, is that the child has a knowing and understanding. It's like just a knowing, right, that my parent is coming back. And even when the parent comes back, they kind of quickly engage with the parent, but they feel okay being on their own, because again, they are secure. And I heard someone say today, I was listening to something on YouTube, and they said one of the best things that you can do if you have any of the other attachment styles is to get with someone or marry someone that has a secure attachment style. Well, we know that that's not always going to be the case. And we also know that having any of the other attachment styles, avoidant, anxious, or disorganized, is not necessarily bad. It's not a bad thing that anyone will have any of these challenges, because everyone has a different story. But the purpose of this conversation and all the conversations that we are having on this podcast is so that you can take this information, identify where you are, and then make improvements in your own life and your own relationships so that you can have those thriving relationships. So what are we looking for when we're looking for characteristics of the secure attachment? And in particularly, if you are still single and you're desiring a mate, these are things that you want to look for. If you are still searching, these are things that you want to begin to improve in your own life. Again, we don't believe that anybody's going to be 100% secure, or anybody just going to be 100% perfect in any relationship, because no one is perfect, right? No one is 100% good or anything of that nature. In fact, the Bible said no one is good but God. I had to put that in there. I was listening to a sermon, because we tend to look at people that are good or do good things. Well, nobody is good, right? We all have things within us, and we all have different personalities and, lived experiences that contribute to who we are today. So when we look at the characteristics, one thing you want to look at, again, in yourself to grow in yourself, or also in that partner that you're looking for, is comfort with intimacy. So these individuals have, they're comfortable with closeness and intimacy. They enjoy healthy emotional connection. So if this person is constantly, wanting to get away from you, they're straying away from intimacy. They're like, oh, why are you touching me? Or, oh, why do you want to do this? Why you want to hang out with me all the time, and things of that nature. And, there's a difference between being needy and just having a healthy emotional connection. But if this individual, or if you are constantly straying away, wanting to be by yourself, not wanting to be in close community with other people that you say you love, then we need to look at that, right? Because that's a tall tale sign that there may be some challenges, and some you're probably have a variation from being intimate. And intimacy is just close connection with someone, physical, emotional, so forth and so on. The second thing you want to look for within yourself and also in others is being able to have trust in relationship. So these individuals generally have a strong sense of trust in the person that they're with, and they can rely on them without excessive worry. So they're not constantly calling and constantly worrying about where they are or what they're doing, or if they're coming home, or if they're going to, show up on time. Just little, and it may seem like little things, right? They just trust. They trust that the relationship is healthy. They trust that the person loves them or cares for them enough to show up when they say they're going to show up, to do what they say that they're going to do, to operate in integrity, to contribute contribute toward the health of the relationship and things of that nature. So there's an automatic sense of trust that's there. Now, if you're in a position where your trust has been violated, or you're dating someone or married to someone where the trust has been violated, then we're going to have to work on that, because that automatic trust factor is not going to be there. The third thing that you want to look for is effective communication. And I've often said, Jill, that I don't think most of us did not grow up in a household where we had effective communication. We didn't sit around the dinner table and talk and say, well, Jillita, because that's your birth name, right? So dad didn't say, Jillita, how was your day to day in school? Mom didn't say that because she was probably working, at the hospital and things of that nature. So we didn't have those, effective and ongoing conversations. Now, am I saying we never had effective communication? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying, the majority of time, we didn't have those, sacred, if you would, conversations. Some conversations were in the car. Some conversations were, passing by. So when you don't have that effective communication, that tends to then veer off into your adult relationships. But these individuals tend to have very open, effective communication styles. They can be honest, very transparent. These individuals sometimes may overshare a lot, right? They don't really have secrets. They don't really care about what other people think or say as it pertains to what they are expressing. They are very expressive individuals, very open to healthy dialogue in the relationship. And number 4 thing that you will see is emotional regulation. These people are very emotionally regulated. We also say, very emotionally intelligent. They know how to regulate their emotions. They know how to manage their emotions. They're not going off on people every time you turn around. We used to say, they're not emotionally hijacked, just, filled with a lot of drama and just very heightened emotional responses all the time and things of that nature. These individuals are able to navigate through even conflict very calmly, very constructively. Now, am I saying that this person will never fly off the handle? No. Am I saying that this person will never say something that, they probably should not have said, or out of turn or anything of that nature? Absolutely not, because again, we're all human, and just depending on what's happening. I often say it depends on the day and the time. It depends on the right or wrong scenario. You just never know, right? But for the most part, what you're going to see is that this individual is extremely healthy when it comes to their ability to communicate with other people. And then the last thing I'm going to share, Jill, before you go on, unless you want to add to this conversation about the characteristics, is this person is very balanced, independence and dependence. So it's not that they don't depend on anyone or their partners for that matter, but it's a very healthy type. I like to say interdependence, more or less, right? They maintain that sense of independence, knowing who they are without losing sense of self. I wrote a chapter in my book, Wives Who Win, Get a Life, right? Because what I have seen and just witnessed with a lot of wives is when they get married, they tend to lose themselves. They tend to lose their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations, and it's all about their husbands. Husbands necessarily don't do that, but I see that more so in women. So we have to make sure that we don't lose who we are. Don't forget about your dreams, your goals, your aspirations, the things that you've always wanted to do just because you are in a relationship. And honestly, that's really not attractive to secure men. When you leave your goals behind and say, oh, I'm just going to follow you, whatever you like, whatever you want. Remember on, was it Coming to America? And she was like, whatever you like, whatever you want. Like, secure men are not attracted to that. High functioning men, because I know we're going to go in that series next time, are not attracted to those type of women. So you want to make sure that you still maintain that independence, but also, let your spouse know, let your partner know, let him or her know that you still do need them. You desire for them to be a part of your life. There are certain things that you do need and you require from them and from their contributions to that relationship.
Absolutely. I had to want to do the roof, roof, roof. It's like bark like a dog, At any rate, the only thing I would say is I just wanted to recap those things in case you missed it. So you need to take notes. Take notes. When you listen to this podcast, listen, take notes, get your whatever notepad out and just document these things. So the characteristics, as Trell just said, was comfort with intimacy, trust in relationships, that effective communication. So obviously the opposite is not that, right? Emotional regulation, and that balance and interdependence and independence, or dependence, excuse me, interdependence and dependence. So moving on to the second thing we want to talk about is childhood relationships and the origin. So I have some notes here. So if you see me looking to the left, that's why, and I may read some of this verbatim, and some of it I'm just going to kind of give it to you. Okay. So the first thing I want you to know is the consistency. That's the key word. Listen. Consistency is so important. So consistency in parenting will help establish that secure attachment. Again, as we mentioned early in the intro, is developed in the early childhood age time frame from 0 to 2, 3 years old. And this is where that parent is consistent in responding to a child's needs, providing emotional support and security. And that's the same thing we get to do in our adult relationships. We have to be consistent, whether it's with our parents still, right? But even more so with our partner, we want to have that level of consistency. So moving to the second thing I want to say, in addition to having that consistency that helps reinforce, that mother's reinforcing that child, I will be there for you. When you cry, I'll come running, right? When you're discomfort, I'm going to rock you. I'm going to hold you. I'm going to love you. And so secondly, we'll get a positive reinforcement. So as this child being raised in a nurturing environment where their emotional expressions are validated, I believe it's Sarissa Hughey, who says permission to feel is permission to heal. Permission to feel is permission to heal. So when somebody expresses a feeling in childhood, and that child expresses a feeling, the mother validates. So this is for everybody, right? So we're talking about doing this as where this all origin from. But some of you still may be in that parenting era, right? Where you have children. This is an opportunity for you to take those corrective actions and make sure you're validating. Sometimes we can come off as dismissive. Sometimes we can come off. Sometimes we can encourage our children to suppress their emotions. And that's exactly what we don't want to do. Validation and validating somebody's emotion is one of the most powerful things you can do to express to somebody that you care about them. Because what you're saying in that moment is, I hear you and I understand how you feel. So it's really important. So they'll get that positive validation by their feeling, positive reinforcement by their feelings being validated and having the permission to express those emotions and feelings. And lastly, but definitely not least, as we're talking about the origin, the patterns that we'll see that foster a healthy, secure attachment base is going to be healthy boundaries. So many people struggle with boundaries, right? And they just rather not knowing how to do it. But you will see in a secure relationship, the parents who model healthy boundaries and encourage autonomy help their children learn to balance closeness and interdependence. So they want to have they encourage the child to go out, and I'm going to get into it even with the parental characteristics in just a moment, but you'll see a level of balance there with the healthy boundaries. And then I want to pivot. So I just talked about the childhood relationships and the origins and how you see this healthy attachment being established. And I want to go ahead and continue the conversation talking about the parental characteristics that needs to be there for that child to attach securely to the parent. First and foremost, there has to be emotional availability. Listen, let me say that for the people in the back. There has to be emotional availability. And what constantly comes to my mind, I'm saying this, we'll hear a lot of times when people talk about, unfortunately, toxic relationships or relationships that's not working, we'll see the opposite. How many times we say, oh, that guy is emotionally unavailable, right? So if he is, chances are, unfortunately, he felt in his childhood that his mother wasn't emotionally available. So he's mimicking that behavior. It's another psychologist, Esther Perel, who says, show me how you love and I'll show you how you was loved. That's powerful right there. Show me how you were loved and I'll show you show me how you love and I'll show you how you were loved. And so she's saying, I can re-engineer and show you how your parents love you based on how you loved others. And so what we're saying here, that a parent that fosters a child with a secure attachment is going to have that level of emotional availability, is going to be responsive to that child's needs and create a safe environment for that child to express themselves. Then we also want to see supportive communication, right? Supportive communication. I don't know where we get this dismissive, invalidating, demeaning. I don't know what other way to say it, but I've seen and experienced some just really unhealthy communications. I'll say experience, right? Some unhealthy communication styles from parents. And we get to move into the supportive communication so it can improve. And this parent would have already shown these things as to that child in order for this child to be secure. But I'm also speaking to the people who are still parenting to give you opportunity to say, am I being supportive in communication? Am I being dismissive and invalidating to my child? So supportive communication, parents who engage in supportive communication, actively listening. Come on, you guys, we got to remember we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we get to listen as more than we talk. And that's something I know personally I had to and get to continue to work on. Sometimes, especially if you're a fixer, where are my problem solvers? Right? All my problem solvers, all my fixers, you got a problem, we can solve it. At least we think we can. And so with that sometimes undermines that person, because when we're constantly ditching out solutions and answers and telling people, let me tell you what you need to do with your life, we're not hearing what their challenge and frustration is, and they want us to solve their problem. Okay, maybe I'm just talking to myself, but I've been working on it, y'all. I'm getting so much better in that department. Okay. I just want to keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it a buck. And not only is it the active listening and the supportive communication, it's also emotional security. Emotional security. And emotional security can be expressed in many ways. I think of a lot of times, even it could be physical touching, whether that's a holding of hand, that could be a hug. And it also could be in the words that you're saying, in your expression, and just being there, listening, being present, and and affirming that child, and just restating what they said to let them know, hey, I hear you. And these are some of my favorite phrases. You guys should write it down. I hear you. I hear you. That's a very powerful phrase to somebody when somebody's expressing themselves to you. Just, I hear you. Especially when your husband's speaking to you, your boyfriend's speaking to you, whoever the case, I hear you. You can't even solve the complaint or issue or concern they have, but at least you can validate them in that moment by saying, I hear you, and also with your child. And lastly, but not least, before we go into the manifest in the romantic relationships, it is this aspect of encouraging exploration. This is so, so, so important, because in a healthy relationship dynamic, you got to master your independence. And so you get to go out and be an independent person and do your own thing. And a parent that's fostering the child with a healthy attachment encourages and pushes their child out. Go hang out with your friends, go to the game, go to the mall, go to the 4-H club, whatever, and give their child the permission to have a level of freedom and independence and autonomy, so they can foster, I can go off and have my friend time, whatever that may be, and come back and still could connect with my mom. And she ain't got no attitude. And she ain't feeling no way. And there's no beef. And matter of fact, she wants to know, how did it go? This is so important. And I feel like some of this stuff just really has not been taught. I believe, and this is just my opinion and more to come on this, I do believe in some regions of America, this is more of a struggle for some people in particular. It may be across all cultures. I'm mostly embedded and familiar with the Black culture because I'm part of the Black culture and community. But this is something that I don't see as much. And I feel like we kind of discourage exploration, and we sometimes operate out of fear, operate out of anxiety. Oh no, you don't need to go there. Oh, you don't need to do that. That's not good, because we're perpetuating this level of fear of like saying, without saying, the world is so dangerous, but it's not. I mean, the world is going to be what it is. They still get to live and be. You can't sit in the chair and just don't go nowhere, don't do nothing. So you get to encourage them to explore and be able to release that child so they can come back. But when this does not happen, this creates an insecure attachment style, and that also ends up showing back up in their relationship and being mimicked with their partner, either that person not exploring on their own, or the partner not encouraging them to explore, or some combination thereof, which leads to usually some level of toxicity or dysfunction or breakdown at a minimum in the relationship. So you get to encourage the exploration. So these stuff, even if you didn't do this when you had young children, if you have even teenagers, older children, you still can do this. And even in your partnership right now, today, you can take action and do that. So let me tell you, I'm about to pass the mic to Terrell, but I want you to know that we want you guys to type down in the chat below what is going to be your one takeaway that you're going to implement this week to improve the quality of your relationships. Because if you're just hearing and you're not doing anything, then you're really not increasing your understanding. And you really want to increase your understanding so you can increase the quality of your relationship. Because otherwise, what's the point of listening to Relationshiptopia? Like, and just because a relationship may be pivoting, changing, shifting, doesn't mean you don't get to start again and have a better relationship in another arena. So it's not a one and done situation, right? So we want to know. So anyway, Trell, I've said enough. On to you.
Good. This is good stuff. You know, when you were talking, I was just thinking about, you were saying you don't know if it's in the African American culture or cultures in general where they don't have these type of conversations, or you know, there's not heightened levels of anxiety and allowing children to explore and have autonomy and things of that nature. And I want to say we're not seeing that because the parents are not healthy. So, you know, the reason why it's that way is we're seeing the trickle effect of exactly what we're talking about. And not healthy, I wouldn't say no fault of their own, but in some sense, correct. It is, right? Because although what has happened to you is not your fault, you may not have grew up in a or was reared in a healthy environment per se, or had secure attachment and things of that nature, or you may had, you know, a child at a young age or out of wedlock. And the reason why I'm saying that is because typically if there's a child that's out of wedlock, you're going to have a lot more challenges than you would if it wasn't, right. So, you know, there are different dynamics that have contributed to the parents, because we're talking about the parental characteristics not being able to contribute such to those children. And that's why we're having this conversation. So if you're listening to this, you know, this is not a condoning message. This is not to shame you message, but this is a message of awareness. So maybe you're not at this stage anymore and that child is that age, but maybe you know someone. Remember, we talked about this podcast is not necessarily everything's not directed to you. This can be an indirect conversation for your neighbor or for your sister or your brother or someone that you know that can utilize this information. You may see things and you may be able to influence them, you know, by the information that you're receiving on this podcast. So that was really good just to explore that. And I just wanted to just say that because what we're seeing is a result of those individuals maybe having an anxious, avoidant, or disorganized attachment style, and their parents don't know that, right? They have no clue because mom is working, dad is
For
working, you know,
sure.
they're doing the best they can. They're making sure food is on the table. They're making sure that all the bills are paid. Hey, that's what we're supposed to be doing. That is the extent of parenting, because that is what most parents and individuals were taught, especially in certain communities and cultures. As long as I'm taking care of the child, as long as I'm doing this, and there's sometimes, unfortunately, a harsher level of parenting in some cultures and not saying that the parent is wrong, but a lot of times parents are parenting based out of fear, based out of what they've gone through and things of that nature, based, you know, parenting based out of
Frustration.
ignorance, frustration, ignorance. So there's so much that we have to take in consideration. And at some point, somebody has to sit down and say, okay, this is a problem overall. So how do we fix going forward? Or how do we improve going forward? We can't go back and redo or undo anything, but going forward, how do we change, you know, communities? How do we change direction from this point forward? How do we change, you know, the generations that are to come, you know, going forward? So this is really good stuff. So last but not least, we're going to leave off on how does a secure attachment, you know, how does this manifest or reveal itself, if you would, in adulthood, in adult relationships? You can probably guess, like, okay, you're going to have a healthy relationship. Yeah, that's part of it, right? But it's a little more than that. And I want to get into it just really quickly and just share 5 things with you. So the relationships are healthy, right? So these individuals do engage. They typically have healthy, long lasting relationships characterized by mutual respect, mutual love, mutual understanding. There's a lot of mutuality in the relationships. They get one another. You know, you have that healthy form of communication that's there, and so forth and so on. Now, that's not saying that this couple will never argue. This is not saying that they're always going to get everything right, because that's just not realistic. But for the most part, there's a very healthy dynamic of the relationship. Now, this couple is also, they don't avoid things. So you have a couple, because some people would say, you know, well, we don't argue, or, you know, we don't have those problems. And I would have to ask the question, well, is it because if is it that you're not arguing because you're avoiding certain arguments? Is that the issue, right? Because that's what's happening a lot of times when couples are saying, well, we don't argue or we don't have disagreements. I'm not saying you have to have knockout drag out fights. I hope you're not doing that. But to never have a disagreement, or never to see your partner at I don't want to say they're worse, but I want to be able to see all parts of the person that I'm with. So I feel like you should be at some point within that relationship dynamic, be able to see that and not be scared of that, fear of that, and still trust that person, and so forth and so on. So you see this couple be able to have those healthy dynamics, even if there are disagreements and things of that nature, or even if they're heightened, emotions, they're able to regulate and come back together and still work through difficulties in the relationship. Number two, you see that this relationship has very low levels of anxiety. Notice I didn't say that there's absolutely no anxiety there. So, right, because as human beings, that's just what it is. We're going to have some levels, and some levels of anxiety is not necessarily bad. It's really warning to let us know that there is something that may be wrong. There's something that's trying to get our attention, or something of that nature. So anxiety in itself is not bad or wrong, but you typically see that there are lower levels of anxiety and there are lower levels of insecurity. Notice I didn't say that there's no insecurity. They're just lower levels. These individuals are very confident in their relationship. They're very confident within themselves. They trust their partner. They trust the relationship. They trust where the relationship is going. There are no antennas or red flags or anything that's making them feel insecure or making them doubt the relationship, or even doubt the person that they have chosen to be in relationship with. Number three, conflict resolution. These individuals are able to handle conflict very constructively, and they're more so seeking solutions. So they're solution focused rather than just focus on the problem. You're the problem, this, that, next. Not that they're ignoring the problem. That's not what I'm saying. It's not that they're oblivious to what is wrong or what needs to be improved, but they're not focused on the problem. They're not making the problem that is before them the focus of the relationship. They are more focused okay, we know that this is an issue. How do we work together to improve? How do we work together to navigate through this? How do we work together to communicate more effectively so this won't be an issue in the long term? So these individuals know that, even if a situation rises, even if it escalates and seemingly to be getting out of control, they know how to bring it back in and to talk constructively one with another to be able to navigate through it. Number four, they're very supportive to one another. Notice I didn't say they extremely depend on one another. They're very supportive to one another, and they're open to receiving support, not thinking anything negative about it. These days and times I've seen and I've heard individuals say, oh, I'm not going to, depend on my man, or I'm not going to depend on no girl or no woman. And it's not about dependence. It is about support. It is about having a relationship that is mutual, a relationship that is reciprocal, a relationship that is, you're both willing to sacrifice. You're both willing to compromise. You're both willing to serve one another. I really believe that marriage is like a servant relationship, is a servant leader type of relationship. You don't mind serving the other person, or the other person does not mind serving you. You do not mind, providing the needs of that relationship for that other person, and vice versa. Like you're both willing to give, and it might not be 100 or 50-50, but you're both willing to give the best of yourself when you're able to do so. And then the last thing is these individuals have very realistic expectations. They have a balanced expectation of the individual. They have a balanced expectation of the relationship, understanding that there is no perfect relationship. There is no perfect person, that they're going to go through difficulties and challenges. Those things are expected, and they understand that, but they also understand each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses. They don't hone in on the weaknesses, but indeed they do. They're maximizing the strengths in those relationships. And a lot of times in relationships, you'll have one person that may, I don't like to really use weak, but may need improvement in this area, and the other person may be really good at this. So they maximize on those things instead of trying to constantly get the person to change. You need to change. No, this is who they are. Respect that, and if you're great at this, continue to do that, and they can support you in another area in that relationship.
It's like a compliment. You complement one another, and like if both people are good at the same thing, then with everything, like then it's like, what's the value added? But I think a lot of times people see that as competition, or otherwise as a bad thing or inferior. So not a lot of people. Sometimes people do, probably on the unhealthy and insecure attachment style, versus seen as a complementary thing and something that we can leverage to say, man, you good at this. Okay, you handle that. I'm gonna do this. Or however, tag teaming up.
Yeah.
Each part, what Terrell, you say in a partnership, each partner has to do their part.
That's right.
So that's it. That's all.
Yeah. So we hope you all enjoy this series of the attachment style. Let us know, which one that you may identify with. If that's, if you're not, if you don't, not that you're putting yourself out there, but we're all growing, we're all evolving, we're all learning, right? So it's not to shame you or say, oh God, you deal with this and you shouldn't be. No, this is just identifying and being aware so that you can grow into and grow closer to the secure attachment style. So let us know. We talked about avoidant, talked about anxious, we talked about disorganized, and of course today secure. And then next week we're going to go into a new series. I'm excited about that conversation. I don't know if Jill want to give you a little hint, but we'll be talking about that next time.
Absolutely. She already kind of talked about it. You kind of maybe heard these conversations talking about a high value man versus low functioning man, and a high value woman versus low functioning woman, and vice versa. So we want to open that conversation. It's a conversation that a young lady named Dr. Bryant, I can't call her first name right now, that she's been kind of going into this. And so we want to add our perspective to the conversation and bring it to our platform so we can talk about it, because for too long, there's been so much value placed on a high value partner, just to realize that those things absolutely do not, let me say it for the people in the back, do not equate a healthy relationship. It does not equate
Say that again.
Relationship. Come on. It does not, will not. You have a high value partner and you can have a low functioning relationship. And so we're going to talk about it next time. Let's get into it. So anyway, you guys. Oh, and we'll talk about some other things too. You guys see the Queens of Faith here. More to come about that. Just know that that's something that I'm going to be sharing and really just putting out there for the amazing women that's part of the community. Not excluding the guys. We got the Kings of Faith as well, although we ain't launching it at this time. But I just want to, I'm going to be dripping that out, and more is going to be coming out and be powerful and amazing. I think you guys are going to love it. So Trell, it's my pleasure to be on the platform with you today, having this conversation. And to the audience, thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you guys back here next time, same place, and we are out. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings. Bye.